This is the 6th devlog in the series for my game Slaughter Cats, a 1 to 4 player beat 'em up platformer coming to PC and hopefully Xbox and PlayStation. While I was getting my new model done, which I covered in my last devlog, I was thinking over whether to change how my slaughter mode worked. When I initially started developing this game in Unity, which I covered a little bit in my first devlog, I had the idea to have a slaughter mode which would work a bit similar to Beefy Sandwich mode in Castle Crashers, whereby the character could be powered up and they would become much larger and more powerful. When I was developing this in Unity, I wanted to have the character covered in blood or some effect with lots of blood, as this fit with the name of the game and the name of the mode, Slaughter Mode. Unfortunately, I don't have any footage as my old project is quite broken now on the newer Unity builds. When I moved to Unreal, I didn't think making the character bigger would look good, and I found it difficult to find an effect which suited what I had in mind. So instead I found a flame effect which covered the whole body, much like a Flame Boy effect, and thought this was okay, but it was the best I could find at the time, and thought it resembled the Invincible Star mode in Mario a little. I wasn't 100% happy with it, as it wasn't really what I imagined, and also I had issues whereby when the effects were used in a dark environment, the luminance of the effect was too high, making it hard to see anything else going on. I did have a potential solution whereby I would change to a less luminous effect in dark conditions, but was aware this could be tricky and could cause issues. Going back to when I was having my main model redone, I was heavily considering getting a larger, more muscular model done with a very similar style, so the main character would morph into this in Slaughter Mode. I decided to go ahead and do this as I thought it was a better fit for my game and would look a lot cooler than just a flame effect, which I didn't think really fit so well, as there was no real reason they were on fire other than that it was the best effect I could find which worked. I also thought that when in this mode the cats could use their claws instead of weapons, as this would be a different element to the mode and make it a bit more interesting. It would also allow the possibility of players being able to unlock more moves just for the slaughter mode as the game progresses. I've always thought the Venom character was a really cool design, especially the really muscly version, and this was the kind of body type I had in mind when the cats morph into a larger, more powerful version. So I basically asked for the existing model to be adapted to have this body type, providing the Venom image as a reference. I want to have similar claws, and I wanted the mouth and teeth on the existing model to be made even bigger and scarier. The initial concept that danildanylenko provided I thought was really good, and I thought the muscularity looked really cool. I just asked for some further adjustments on the smile and claws to match closer to what I'd asked for. When the model was finished and delivered, initially I wasn't that impressed, as I thought the model looked really chunky and the fur really hid all the muscularity, same as the main model, but especially as the muscularity on this mesh was so pronounced, I thought it would show up some more. I understood though that not a huge amount could be done about this, as fur is going to hide the muscularity underneath, and it would be difficult to show it correctly. On reflecting on it more though, although it wasn't quite what I wanted, it looked kind of funny because of its chunky aesthetic, and I thought this may actually work better as it looked funnier and was more memorable. As a result of this, I decided I'd change the name from Slaughter Mode to Chonk Mode, as this was funnier, although I did still like the old name as I thought it tied in well with the game name and really illustrated what the mode was about, which was giving the players a more powerful and deadly cat. But in the end, I think the name Chonk Mode is funnier and more catchy, and definitely suited the new models more, and also did fit well with the game style, as it's quirky and uses a fair bit of meme culture. After testing with the character a bit, I thought the existing claws were a bit too small and weren't really visible during gameplay, so I decided to go and edit the claws and the hands slightly to have a bigger, more visible claws. I then went through and recreated all the characters with the new Chonk model, so when each character morphed in Chonk mode, they'd all morph into a larger version of themselves. Unfortunately, I had the same UV issue with the fur on the Chonk mesh that I did with the standard mesh, so I had to spend a few hours fixing the UV placements of some of the hair cards, so fur for some of the characters would display correctly. Having decided on this new Chonk mode as opposed to the old Slaughter mode, I found it a bit of a shame after spending a huge amount of time testing and experimenting with the old mode, but managed to reuse a fair amount of the old mechanics I built in the new Chonk mode. I want to adjust the initial transition into the mode, as in the old Slaughter mode the players would still use their weapon, and so the transition animation took that into consideration and slammed down their weapon, causing a blast, which then meant they were in Slaughter mode. Bearing in mind they could no longer use their weapons in chunk mode, I want to have the player crouch down, whereby they charge up before roaring and then transitioning into chunk mode. While listening to some sound effects for cats, I came across a sound effect where the cat is acting strange and making weird noises. And I thought this would fit well. When the cat is making these noises, it often moves its head in odd random ways, so I thought I'd copy this and add it to the animation to make it even more funny and fit with the audio more closely. I wasn't fully sure on the effect to use when the character transitions in chunk mode, as I still wanted to have some blood effect, but I found an effect which is like a blood cloud, which I think works well and fits in nicely when the character mesh is transitioned. I experimented a bit with the attack effect when the cats are attacking in chunk mode. Initially I had a typical trail effect, but thought this didn't quite fit and added a claw style effect instead, reducing the size of it more closely to match with the character. While I did like this effect, I thought I could do better and experimented more with the trail effect, eventually setting on a trail which has 1 trail per claw, so a total of 5 trails per hand. I think this works out really well. I also adjusted the blood trails when enemies are hit, so the blood trails also have 5 trails per claw, and I think this looks really cool. The trails for the claws are still a work in progress, and I'll likely adjust the trail colours for each character, the same as the current weapon trails. At the moment the attacks are quite limited, and I will add more and more as I progress further with development. At the moment I'm keeping the kick the same as the non-chunk mode, but I have an idea to increase the force that the kicks deal to make it seem as though you're much more powerful in chunk mode. I also have the idea to add some more powerful attacks which can be unlocked later in the game, as I think it would be good and rewarding to have progression with the chunk mode as the game enemies get more difficult. I'm also tempted to add more blood to the character when they enter chunk mode, maybe on his teeth and claws, and possibly on his fur, and we'll experiment with this some more and see if it looks good or is better without. I may also work on the face a little bit more and see if I can get the face to look a bit more sinister, but again we'll have to see which looks better. It's still quite early in the development of this new updated chunk mode, and I'll likely test and modify quite a few things as I think of new ideas and see areas for improvement. Thanks for watching. If you like what you see, please subscribe to the channel, and you can also wishlist a game on Steam if you're interested. The link is in the description.